Good evening and welcome to the Week in Review. I'm Amanda Vinicky. Paris Schutz has the evening off. The big story of the day: the United States no longer protects the federal right to have an abortion. The Supreme Court has overturned Roe v. Wade.
Today is a momentous day for human rights in America. Today, thousands of children and their families are protected from the violence of abortion. Today, the Supreme Court took a huge step in moving the nation back toward our founding principles, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The ultra-conservative justices have ignored half a century of settled law, as well as the vast majority of Americans who believe that abortion should remain legal. I want to be clear: abortion is safe and legal in Illinois, and it will remain legal in Illinois.
Today, we commend the Supreme Court for taking the very, very bold step to allow states to restore protection to preborn babies.
Amen.
Just like in 1954 with Brown versus the Board of Education, we are on the right side of history.
We'll dive right into what this decision means, but first, an introduction to our Week in Review panel. Joining us are Heather Sharon, who covers politics for WTTW News, Craig Wall, political reporter at ABC 7 News, Lynn Sweet, Washington bureau chief for the Chicago Sun-Times, and Clarence Page, Pulitzer-winning columnist for the Chicago Tribune. Let's get right to it. Heather, beginning with you, help to put this in perspective. You know, just yesterday I spoke with a series of women who were talking about Title IX's impact on its 50th anniversary. Now this decision, how monumental is it?
It's truly massive. Never before in American history has the Supreme Court voted to take away a constitutional right that it had previously granted. And it's important to note that Roe versus Wade was the law of the land since 1973, nearly 50 years. Today, that all changed.
Now, Craig, help to explain the rationale of the justices, the majority of justices anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what they're saying is that there was never a constitutional right. Justice Alito, in his opinion for the court, saying that it was wrongly decided back in 1972 and the basis for it was wrong. This now returns it back to the states, and that's obviously going to set off a firestorm of activity on many levels. Some states already having trigger laws outlawing abortion going into effect. Our sister state of Missouri already there.
You know, Lynn, Illinois' governor today called the concurring justices extremists. Illinois' attorney general described the court as stolen. Have the political machinations that led to the makeup of this court, did it undermine its integrity, or are those accusations from Governor Pritzker, from Attorney General Roe, partisan?
Well, 9 members on the court, and okay. One seat you could argue was stolen from the Democrats because the Republicans refused to take Barack Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland. So, that knocks out one. And then, and fair and square, President Trump, who will be in Illinois on Saturday, had 3 appointments to the court. One was the stolen Obama seat. And then Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And one of those was Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. So one could argue that the process is a result of an election. Elections have consequences. We've covered far more complicated schemes, but that's how you got to the count of where we're at.
Heather, let's take this a step further with this, and then also earlier this week, a gun control decision, both of these going against the majority of what Americans want, according to current polling. So what does this mean for belief in one of the prime institutions of democracy, the Supreme Court?
It's a very fraught moment in American history. You are already seeing renewed calls for the law to be changed to increase the number of justices or to put an age limit on the justices so you don't have a situation where you have Ruth Bader Ginsburg dying while still on the court. But all of those would require just massive changes in the House and in the Senate in particular to break a filibuster or to end a filibuster. So those changes aren't ending anytime soon. What's going to be so challenging, I think, about this story to cover it from this point forward is that it's literally going to be be 50 different stories in 50 different states. What's happening in Missouri tonight is very different than what's happening in Illinois, and so on and so forth. And that means that it's going to be difficult to tell one story about the sort of outcome of today's decision. Instead, it will be many different decisions with huge impacts on individual women and their families' lives. And waiting, Clarence, for future court decisions, perhaps that may be coming down the pike, let's refer to another Clarence, and of course that is Justice Clarence Thomas, urging the court to reconsider all substantive due process precedents, such as those guaranteeing the rights to contraceptives, to same-sex marriage. Are these next?
Yes, I had to smile, by the way, because I wish I had $1 for everybody who's called me Clarence Thomas by mistake. But anyway, the other Clarence, though he was key in this decision, he submitted a concurring opinion. Not a dissent, but a concurring opinion, agreeing with Alito, but going a little farther. And this is what's interesting, because I was reading the opinion, trying the best I could get through the legalese, and it's sort of contradictory. Because on the one hand, he points out this decision should not be taken to apply to any other decision that may be forthcoming, like contraception or gay marriage, et cetera. But at the same time, farther down, he points out that this is the same principle on which those are based, and thus should be subject to review. So what's the difference now? Calling for it to be re-examined now, or saying it should be subject to review down the road. So it's clear where Clarence Thomas's sentiments are. He's right there next to Alito, as was Justice Scalia. And so I think we're going to see a more of the same from that end of the court. And with a 6-3 majority, the conservatives are feeling their oats right now. And ironically, Judge Roberts is the one who feels pinned in, because he wants to avoid what you just mentioned, which is the loss of credibility on the court, the sense that the court is too partisan. And there were lots of rumors floating around that with that league, that this gave Roberts a chance to come forth with a moderate alternative that wouldn't quite kill Roe nationwide and all, but there's really no real substantial difference between the leaked version of Alito's decision and what finally was announced.
He was the sole justice, in fact, to write a concurring opinion that tried to sort of scale back, keeping in place Roe v. Wade, but striking down the Mississippi law at heart. Now, let's move to, Lynn, you today covered Vice President Kamala Harris, who called it a health care crisis. Let's hear what else she had to say.
You have the power to elect leaders who will defend and protect your rights. And as the president said earlier today, with your vote, you can act. And you have the final word. So this is not over.
Lynn, again, you were there. She, in fact, made those comments during a visit to Chicago, echoing really President Biden, who encouraged people to vote, saying that this is not the final word. If it isn't the final word, is it, however, where things are going to stand nationally for a while, at least in the near future?
Let me sort this out. So just so people know, she was in Plainfield, Illinois, and Chicago. And you just might find this interesting. She was on Air Force 2 with Senator Dick Durbin, who is the chair of the Judiciary Committee, when they got word of the decision and they started reading it on the plane. And in fact, her speech was delayed for hours because of it. It was going to be mainly an event to talk about maternal health, which is a part of what we're talking about here when you talk about the right to abortion. So here's what she was talking about, and here's what's tough here. We all have been talking about what the court could do, take away, give, whatever. If Congress simply codified the abortion provisions that guarantee women now the ability to have abortions, you wouldn't have to deal with the courts. That's what she was talking about. So then, just to jump to what you may ask me, well, can that happen? And no, there's not enough Democrats in the Senate to get anything like that passed. So that's what she was talking about. It does show how the midterms are very consequential. It shows how a member of Congress, Lauren Underwood, who was at the event, who's in a district that may be a tight race. That's what she was talking about. And therefore, you have to figure why, as Heather said, there's 50 stories going on in the states. There is one Congress, and there will be maybe a growing recognition that there is a way to deal with this other than the court. Long shot, doubt if it will happen anytime soon.
Clarence, you as well, do you doubt that that is going to happen? There are elections coming up, both Biden and Harris saying vote, vote, vote.
Well, as quickly as possible, let me say I was finishing college when Roe v. Wade came out. I remember it quite vividly. And immediately after that decision came out, you saw a rise on the political right and the agitation of a new religious right that embraced the abortion issue and has been the main forces driving it ever since. And it has also been the main force pushing the Republicans to the right politically. So in short, Democrats have got a long way to go to catch up on that score. They got to work the grassroots the same way the Republicans did. Go out to the school boards, the city councils, county boards, work up to the state houses. And now you see Republicans control most of the state houses and and the governorships. And they got into that position through a lot of hard work. Democrats put their eggs in the basket of the White House, mainly. And now they got to shift gears if they want to deal with this issue as well as others like the makeup of the Supreme Court.
Now, Heather, you referenced how this is going to be a state-by-state issue. Illinois thought to been called an oasis, a haven, because the state does have laws protecting access to abortions. Governor Pritzker calling a special session for sometime next month. What is he hoping to accomplish there?
Well, there are a number of issues that we heard the governor say he was interested in discussing with the General Assembly, including a bill that could provide resources for people coming to Illinois from other states where abortion is banned. That could include Iowa and Missouri and Indiana. The other issue, I think, is to expand the number of healthcare professionals who could perform abortions, to expand that to include nurses and doctors, and to codify into law protections that they could not be criminally charged in other states. There are any number of issues that they could tackle during this special session. And I think that we really saw this immediate response from the governor because there was such a howl of anger on the left. And this allowed him, again, he's running for re-election right now, to sort of respond to that moment and step into that breach and say, I'm taking action, even though he has largely made good on his 2018 campaign promise to make Illinois the most abortion-friendly state in the Midwest.
Including with
if I could quickly jump in,
Lynn.
Just think of the dynamic going in. Presuming that nothing changes, the Democratic supermajorities in the House and Senate with the governor will have a enormous stage in Springfield before the November election to put Klieg lights, spotlights, to make abortion the centerpiece of the re-election campaign of opponents. And if all the Republicans running for governor say that they are against abortion rights, so what a contrast for a governor who already is making that a centerpiece of his race. So, when you asked Heather, well, what do you want to accomplish? What does the governor want to accomplish? My simpler answer is get reelected.
And also, all members of the General Assembly who are running for re-election are on the ballot as well. So with that, let's bring in another voice to put this in context, State Senator Cristina Pacione-Visayas.
To women and pregnant people and individuals assigned female at birth across this country seeking an abortion, we are saying that you are welcome in Illinois. We will fight for you. We will support you, we will uplift you, and we will keep you safe. For this primary on Tuesday and November's general election, game on. This is on the ballot.
And on the ballot in Illinois, quickly with the primary on Tuesday. Craig, anything to add in terms of what impact you believe this is going to have on what happens the 28th?
Well, obviously, I think one thing you got to think about is how is it going to impact the governor's race on the GOP side. There is the conservatives have loved Trump, and this is him delivering on one of his promises coming in. This is going to just further energize the more conservative part of the base, so that we're going to see that's going to help Bailey, going to help Sullivan, probably even hurt Irvin even more because he's waffled so much on this issue. I mean, today, if you saw his statement, if you remember, he promised that he would comment on this once the ruling came down, but he kept declining to talk about the whole issue before with just the leaked memo. Now his statement came out today, and he didn't even address the main issue. So if any Republicans on the conservative side are thinking about him as a conservative, they're probably not even going to vote for him if they were before. So I think it's going to energize some of the more conservative members of the party, but that may not be good for the party in general when it comes to the November election. Talking to Governor Jim Edgar the other day, and he thought if Bailey wins, it's going to be bad for Republicans, perhaps down ballot, if he is the GOP nominee because of his staunch conservatism.
And in fact, we have seen Democrats really pushing for that with campaign literature. Now, Craig, let's stick with you tomorrow. And in fact, right now, I believe you are in Quincy, Menard County, to cover a visit by former President Trump. What is he doing in Illinois? What are you listening for?
Yeah, well, it's two-part. Obviously, abortion is going to be a big part of his rallying cry because he's taking credit for it today in his statements, and he'll be talking about it tomorrow, I'm sure. He is here because of the 15th congressional race. Freshman Congressman Mary Miller is in a very tight battle with Rodney Davis in the redistrict 50th district down here, and she's been a staunch supporter of Donald Trump since she's been in office, and so he is here to rally with her and give his support to her, and that's the main reason. But there's also the possibility: could there be a Darren Bailey endorsement in this race? He's been courting it. President Trump went on the radio yesterday with the Center Square in Springfield and gave this tacit endorsement of Bailey without really endorsing him. So, we're expecting a lot of people down here today or tomorrow for this rally, and it's going to be a classic Trump rally scene like you've seen so many other times before.
Now, speaking of Congress, U.S. Representative Adam Kinzinger of Shanahan not running for re-election following a sixth term, but he is not exiting quietly. Thursday, leading a hearing in which the January 6th committee presented evidence of then-President Trump's efforts to pressure state officials, the Justice Department, to overturn the 2020 election. Let's hear.
We're here today because the facts were irrelevant to President Trump. It was about protecting his very real power and very fragile ego, even if it required recklessly undermining our entire electoral system by wildly casting baseless doubt upon it. In short, he was willing to sacrifice our republic to prolong his presidency. I can imagine no more dishonorable act by a president.
Lynn, does the evidence show the former president attempting to orchestrate a coup?
Well, from what we've seen so far, that's a reasonable conclusion to come to. We haven't seen everything. The committee has unearthed an enormous amount of text, documents, vivid testimony that is leading to the conclusion. And indeed, in a sense, you don't need me to say it. The members have said that the evidence already is there to show it's a coup. So here's what I hope in understanding what's going on in this committee. The members are telling you they have the conclusion. I mean, they've looked at everything. They have planned it out. What they want to do is tell the story of it. So I don't want to make people think when I said that's what we're leading to, I kind of want to amend it. That's the conclusion of the committee. The hearings are designed to take you with them into what they know so you understand how they came to the conclusion. What Adam Kinzinger was doing in his questioning, which all of the members have done kind of just the facts questioning, no speechifying. That's what makes this committee a little different than some
carefully coordinated.
Yeah. It's and well produced. So I would think of it that way. We know the answer. It's not a mystery. It's just bringing people along almost episode by episode so you understand how this conclusion of a attempted coup came to be.
Clarence, what is the view from Washington? Both, do you think this is succeeding with the public or to members of the GOP that have thus far been fighting these hearings?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Lynn is absolutely right, first of all, in her assessment. And of what I am hearing from folks who are close to the Justice Department, is that what Merrick Garland is really concerned about is being able to make a credible case that won't be viewed as being political. For those of you who've seen the movie Z or numerous other episodes in history know what it's like to have suddenly the prosecutor goes after the top people in the government for corruption. It's one thing to have the evidence. It's another thing to win over the public in a democratically run government. And so Garland wants to be sure that this case is solid. That's also, I think, a reason why the House committee is not trying to push for a request from the Attorney General for action. They're leaving it up to him so he can be as independent as possible. But no, Lynn's right. The case is there. And they've done an excellent job, I must say. I think maybe it helps having a couple of Republicans on the committee because Democrats aren't getting tangled up in their own message for a change. And the fact that there's only 2 Republicans who joined this committee actually prevents a lot of the theatrics we normally have. I mean, you can just imagine what Jim Jordan would do with his questioning, leading us down the briar patch to all kinds of side issues. So
was originally to be have been appointed, and then basically Speaker Pelosi said, no, we won't be seating you. Now, amidst this backdrop, there has been a degree of bipartisanship on the way to President Biden is a gun package, not as far as the president has said he wanted, but does make changes, including juvenile records have to be checked if 18 to 20-year-olds want to purchase a gun. Craig, is this a sign that things can happen in Washington, just being overshadowed by the court?
Yeah, it is a sign, and what makes me wonder is, how many of these shootings, mass shootings, did it really have to take, and why now? And I don't quite have a sense as to what made this latest mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, kind of the tipping point to get something done. Obviously, we've got an important midterm election coming up, and that could certainly be driving, some of the Republican support for this kind of thing. But, I think a lot of people are looking at it and saying, finally we're doing something. Maybe it might not be enough for a lot of folks, but to see step in the right direction, I think is the sense that I get that people feel when they look at this and say, okay, we're finally doing something.
Meanwhile, Ken Griffin will no longer be Illinois' richest man because he is no longer going to be an Illinois resident. He and Citadel are taking off to Florida. Heather, what do you make of the timing of this announcement, and what does it mean for Illinois?
Well, of course, the timing is quite unusual because Tuesday, the election, his chosen candidate, Richard Irvin, is on the ballot in the GOP fight for governor. He has spent nearly $50 million helping Richard Irvin run this campaign. And I had several people say to me, this is obviously an attempt by Ken Griffin to get out of town before Irvin loses to Darren Bailey so that he can wash his hands of the whole matter. It was quite a choice to make the announcement when he made the announcement. He has been at loggerheads with Governor J.B. Pritzker for years at this point over any number of different issues, most particularly crime. And I think that most people expected him to leave Illinois, especially if Irvin lost. I think the big surprise was that he did it even before the primary.
And Lynn, we've got.
To your point, I was going to say, to your point, obviously a move like this was in the works for months. This was not, but the timing is certainly curious. Whether it really has anything or not to do with it, you could argue that point, but the timing certainly.
Some have said it was meant to sort of poke Pritzker upon the heels of leaving of Caterpillar and Boeing, with Citadel leaving. Others say, as you noted, Heather, trying to remove egg from his face. We've got about 30 seconds left. Lynn, I want to know what races are you watching for on Tuesday besides the top of the ballot?
I'm looking at Illinois 1, the race to replace Bobby Rush, 17 Democrats. I'm looking at Illinois 3, that's an open seat. newly created to elect a Hispanic member of Congress. We have Gil Villegas, the alderman, against State Rep Delia Ramirez, the leading contenders. And then in the Democratic incumbent versus Democratic incumbent race in the northern suburbs, Maria Newman against Sean Casten.
All right. Thank you so much for getting that in just in the nick of time, because we are right now out of it. Our thanks to Lynn Sweet, Heather Sharon, Craig Wall, and Clarence Page. And that's our show for this Friday night. Don't forget, you can get Chicago Tonight and The Week in Review streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. And be sure to join us tomorrow night at 6 for Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. Then immediately after that, Chicago Tonight Black Voices at 6:30. Then we're back at 7 next week. Now for The Week in Review, I'm Amanda Vinicky. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm pleased to give back to the community through numerous charitable initiatives.
Spend Saturday evening with the Voices of Chicago. Latino Voices at 6 and Black Voices at 6:30. See you on Saturdays.
I started having sad thoughts around the end of 3rd grade.
At that age, how are you ever gonna admit I can't see past tomorrow?
It feels like you want to cry, but there's nothing there.
We all have stuff. We all have struggles.
People do overcome having a mental illness.
You're never alone, and you're gonna get through this.
Monday at 9 on WTTW.
The 2022 WTTW Great Treasure Hunt Sweepstakes is here. Enter for your chance to win the spring early bird prize from our friends at Pedigo Electric Bikes of Winnetka. You'll be off on your next adventure on a brand new electric bike of your choice. Whether you choose a comfort cruiser, low step, trail-ready adventure, or city commuter bike, you'll ride further, faster, and more comfortably with Pedigo's whisper quiet motor, lightweight battery, and advanced electronics. But you must enter by June 30th. Visit WTTW.com/sweepstakes for your chance to win.
What makes for a great vacation depends on who you ask. Are you looking to get away or bring everyone together? Do you want to get outside and play or see a play at the plate? Do you want to feed your soul or stuff your face? Fortunately, however you operate, I've got you covered. The name's Missouri, but you can call me Mo. And I have just one question. What's your MO?
PBS, where the drama is on Sunday night, starting with Hotel Portofino.
I was hoping that Rose might wish to accompany me for a little painting lesson.
You realize this nonsense will have to stop sooner or later, don't you?
Followed by Endeavor on Masterpiece.
It's a long way to drive to kill someone, huh?
Whoever's behind it, you need to find them, and fast.
Hotel Portofino and Endeavor on Masterpiece.
Hi, Chicago. This is Josh.